Before we start to talk about the laws of thermodynamics, we need to understand what it means for system to be at same temperature. So basically, we are talking about thermal equilibrium. So if we have two objects in thermal contact, if the temperature difference is present, so there is one is hotter than the other, in time they will achieve something called as thermal equilibrium. So this simple idea or definition, this simple picture helps us get to start with the zeroth law and move on to talk about other laws. Okay, so that is one idea over here, and there are a few more things. Then there's something called as diathermic wall. So diathermic wall, so let me, okay, this is a diathermic wall. So what is diathermic wall? Basically, it's a wall that allows heat to flow. So this is an example of diathermic wall. Okay. Then something called as adiabatic wall. This will not allow the heat to flow. So basically, maybe this we can consider it as adiabatic. I think I spelled it wrong. ADI. Oh no, adiabatic wall. So all these are adiabatic walls. Okay. So basically, they don't let the heat go out of it. Basically, our thermal flask. They approach to be an ideal. They approach to be a adiabatic wall, but of course they are not. So thermal flasks. And diathermic are spoons, anything steel. Then what else? I think, yeah. Okay. So let me go through the slides. Okay, so before we start off with the first law, we need to learn two to three words. One is thermal equilibrium. That's the main thing. Thermal equilibrium, when two systems are said to be in thermal equilibrium, if when placed in a thermal contact, there is no net flow of heat from one to the other. Right? First thing. Next, important things about thermal equilibrium is that temperature will remain constant with time and there's no much change observed for a longer duration after longer contact. So if we have thermal equilibrium, we said to have thermodynamic equilibrium. So thermodynamic equilibrium is when we talking about the macroscopic properties. They will not change per se. If given time, if things are in thermal equilibrium, eventually the system will attain thermodynamic equilibrium is what we are trying to make a point over here. A simple example, I don't want to read through that. Diathermic wall, a wall that allows heat to pass through it. What happens? Heat flows from hotter body to the colder body and eventually same temperature, thermal equilibrium. Common example, conclusion. Okay. Adiabatic wall, the wall that does not allow the heat to pass through it. Very simple things. Okay, so vacuum with silvered surface. Walls of a thermos, right? They tend to be an adiabatic wall. Nothing is perfect though. Absence of heat flow through an adiabatic wall does not mean that two bodies have the same temperature. Oh yeah, by the way, one thing about adiabatic wall, actually it's common sense. See, instead of diathermic wall over here, if I had kept an adiabatic wall and all of this are adiabatic, what happens? This will continue to be 18, this will continue to be 20. Let me explain it this way. See what that point is trying to tell us. Say I have a adiabatic box. I have a liquid inside that. And I have one more adiabatic box. I have one more liquid inside that. And I have a material that connects this to this. Right? So it might feel that they are in thermal equilibrium because there's net heat flow is 0. Actually, there's no heat flow, so the net flow will be obviously 0. So the net heat is 0. But does not mean that they are in thermal equilibrium. Because everything is adiabatic over here, you're not allowing the energy to flow from one end to the another end. They are at different temperatures. This can be 10 degrees Celsius, this can be at 50 degrees Celsius. Because everything is adiabatic, does not mean that, and eventually, technically, it will lead to heat not flowing. And it looks like, oh, since the heat is not flowing, it means that we have a thermal equilibrium. No, that's not the case. That need not be the case. So this is important for your MCQ questions. It's a small commonsensical thing, but you will miss it when it comes as an MCQ. Therefore, thermal equilibrium can be tested only using a diathermic wall. Okay, again, such reason and assertion and reason based question. Many ways I can trick you guys to get confused with a simple concept. But yeah, again, understand everything in detail, question yourself, take our Q&A on our website, go through all the questions that we have for you guys. Learn to think, don't just listen. No point. This is a point of caution. Let me. So does not mean thermal equilibrium. Okay, guys.